How do you...
Joel, it's pretty late and I gotta get up in a few hours.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna get out of your hair. Just, I want to show you something. Just give me 1 second.
Have you ever completed a game so mesmeric, so brutal to your emotions, so intrinsically immersive that it connects with your very being, and changes how you perceive video games can even be? Then the weeks ahead were just an empty void of meaningless clicks and trigger presses. Sure, the dialogue's great and all, but I kinda miss the characters from that other game, the one I can't stop humming to. Well, I have, multiple times for multiple worlds. Moments that made me sit forward and check myself. And if you're also like me, 5 minutes after the credits roll, you get yourself to the nearest vendor of factoids and articles about said title. You start looking for anything, a voice, a person, a tidbit of truth to reconnect you with it, hoping to discover just yet one more thing about that insanely cool world that the black screen at the end of it all just stopped you from. Then you hit up Spotify or YouTube Music, because through it all, through the hundreds of hours and characters, through the long wait of digestible chapters, something that sticks in your brain, something that I can listen to one more time. So when I loaded up The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt for the first time in almost a decade, it came with an anticipation. And I hoped 10 years would be enough not to spoil a story that I still remembered with fond recognition, like spotting an old friend across that one field you used to play in when you were kids. Because I was anticipating a moment that I had relived through the years, like getting to witness an old memory, but this time, it allowed me to follow along. Tell me something all these games have in common without words. Death, violence, sinners, and agile killers. Well, maybe not stellar. Agility aside, the girl in the star-sloped hat is a gem of a starboard captain. Unlike the others, hugs in this game heal. Although your journey with Stellar is just as important, as we'll see in a bit. But that leaves us with Ellie, Booker DeWitt, Geralt of Rivia, Alan Wake. They all carry variations of burning desires to kill someone or protect somebody, whether for silver or for a manuscript page, issues with them being the protagonists of their own stories. All 5 carry longing senses of burden and tragic nobilities.
I saved her.
And music. They all like a little song and dance, dodge and roll, and pirouette through everyone's favourite video game pastime. Killing the bad guys. Culling the field of a little more corn. A bonus point to anyone who realised the other thing that these games have in common is whether the player can easily determine who is the bad guy. It might just be you. Tendencies of revenge and coercive gambling aside, these games make determining which side of the moral line in the sand the player feels comfortable standing on a great deal trickier and unstable. Try holding onto your sense of right and wrong and supreme justice when a pack of deserters just want to live, but you need that potion's manuscript in their lockbox. Or you've been hired by an undisclosed third party to whisk away a princess from her tower in the sky. Or when you lose someone so close, even if they wronged you, that those taken or local authorities, well, they're just dudes in the way, places to pump some ammo. But this video isn't about morals or grey areas. Because what if I showed you that these games do something deeper than that? That all of those questions of player agency, decision making, and outcome of the rolling credits were set down inside something as memorable and returnable as listening to a song? What if I said you already knew? Because you were there. You were initiated. When the first lyrics hit the lips and bounced right into your eardrums, what if instead of being locked in the first or third person, you were sat firmly in the 4th row, coming in from being tossed outside, where you were surrounded by locked doors and city walls, an alley streaked in the vibes of rainy Eastern European streets, because, on the other side of one of those doors, you started hearing music. Then you've likely played that niche little RPG called The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, at least up until you head through the other side of hell. Apologies for the clerical error, Velen.
I don't know what happened.
For Ellie, in The Last of Us Part 2, it's a constant tensing of the fist. An omniscient voice in the back of her mind, Joel's voice. Although the player experiences the powerful opening lines of the song Future Days through Joel's gruff performance, the lyrics mesmerize this young Ellie. And throughout all the bloodshed and revenge-taking, it stems back to this song, this trinket, this moment, this version of Joel. The one the player just can't let go of.
If I ever were to lose you, I'd surely lose myself.
If we take a short detour now into the world of Ferryman for the Dead, in Spiritfarer we're met with Stella, captain, fishing connoisseur and errand runner. Now Stella doesn't sing. No one in this game does. Its characters are delivered purely through cute dialogue boxes and chatters, and following you on this ever-expanding journey of connecting with former family and past acquaintances. The soundtrack of Spiritfarer chimes along with a joyful, yet sorrowful basque of chimes and leitmotifs. All along, the orchestral heartbeat of this game has been growing. Now, suddenly, it's as if the game, Stella, and the player have found the words to describe the most mutual of agreements, and it's soft, strong, and built to last beyond the credits. Get to the end of the game, and there's one last journey the player must take. The Everdoor awaits us all, and then this happens. Words, lyrics, a voice attuned to the world of chimes, planting seeds, sewing old friendships back together, fighting cosmic storms, that the game asks the player, what will you leave behind?
Who's there? Who's there?
Bring us the curb and wipe away the debt!
What do you want?
We had a deal to wit! Open this door right now!
I told you! I'm not gonna do it!
BioShock Infinite. A game that's part lighthouse funfair, part undercurrent of a tragic cycle, a paradise not seeming so prophetic upon the player's closer inspection. For Elizabeth, it's a song she's heard echoed across floating districts, and for the player, it begins in the sanctuary of the opening level, when Booker first hears the hymn on the steps to heaven, one that fills Booker's ears with questions and promises. The hymn is credited to have been penned in 1907, but in Columbia, set in the year 1912, that makes Columbia's Welcome Choir a mere contemporary rendition. When you travel with Elizabeth to the bar in Shantytown, in the quiet corner of the basement, you'll find a guitar. And Elizabeth will start to sing the lyrics to Will the Circle Be Unbroken.
Will the circle be unbroken by and by and by?
This hopeful yet somewhat deluded, indoctrinated optimism that sounds so appealing in a beautiful voice and so in sync with the false paradise in the sky, spells delusion. Because in some ways, the best way to describe the story of Bioshock Infinite is in that one word, until the loop starts over again, and Booker's violent side rears its head.
Yeah, that's where they said I'd find her.
Telegram, Mr. DeWitt. Telegram for you, sir.
I'd forgotten there were still places like this. Towns where everybody knew everybody.
Welcome to the Oh Dear Diner.
Hi, I was wondering if you could help me. I'm looking for...
Mr. Wake. Alan Wake. Oh, God! I am your biggest fan. I know people say that all the time, but I really am.
I'm glad to hear that.
Alan, please help me.
Alice?
You'll do exactly what I say if you ever want to see your wife again.
But there's one more game that fits inside this category of metafictional music, one quite unlike the others. So much so, they made a second. Remedy's Alan Wake from 2010. The poet and the muse plays from a harmonious guitar at the closing of Chapter 4, and it isn't just a great song that follows, it guides the player and Alan through into the final act of Alan's holiday retreat turned nightmare. Like the coffee-deficient writer himself, it's about an artist, Thomas Sane, who likewise lost his love, his muse, and his mind to the mysterious darkness inside Cauldron Lake years ago. Find the Lady of the Night, the lyric insists. That's how you reshape destiny. Like all the songs that we've explored before, it connects Alan and the player into the world by symbiosing sound with narrative. Alan's turbulent time as guest star on the television show of his own making, as he scours Bright Falls for his missing wife Alice, is delivered in an eerie, meta way that is both jamming ballad and instruction manual. It's also the first time the game uses an original song to close out a chapter. But Remedy Entertainment doesn't use music lightly at all. Remedy create for their games an even closer fit than a suede suit, and they're not just adding leather patches on an otherwise dry-cleaned rider's jacket. Anyone who has played, or suffered, depending on your outlook of uncanny shifts and astral planes, either Alan Wake 2, or even the amazing Control, recognize the raw, wondrous wails of the old gods of Asgard. Remedy's connected universes, one band fits all.
Children of the Elder God! Enjoy it! God damn it!
Logan thinks you should try cheering up.
Snarky kid.
Skip forward 13 years, and Alan's back.
Quite the cliffhanger. We've all been dying to know what "it's not a lake, it's an ocean" really means.
You and me both.
Well,
A featuring guest on a late-night talk show which is even more upside down and inside out. This time it's the ruminating heavy metal of Herald of Darkness that kicks off an LP of killer tracks and Taken. Belittling talk show hosts aside, the player, even the most initiated into Remedy's formula, can't help but question every inch of Alan's twisted lie of a life and disappearance. Bonus meta point here. Check out the length of said fiendish song, and it comes out at 13 minutes. Not sure if this was fully intended. With Remedy though, you start to get the feeling as you hop off the prison bus that somehow it all is. But that's one for every year of Alan's subsea sabbatical as an AWE patient. And even the characters themselves, former band members Tor and Odin, who still know how to whale up a retirement home or two, play their part in messing up Alan's sense of right or wrong, and later, connecting Saga to her missing persons case. All of these are examples of video game songs that break the fourth wall through music. They do so intentionally. They're complicitly aware of the player's presence, and so they are directly speaking to them through the act of heavy metal, charming melody, or ballad. And while this sounds counterproductive to what games normally try to achieve, by immersing the player, like any good rendition of the fourth wall effect, it creates a paradox. One that has the effect of drawing you further in the case of Alan, until you drown inside the illusion. They're riffs and chords of immersion, without being so intrusive as to kick you out. In fact, it has the opposite effect. If you ever wanted to connect a player to a game world, you could do a lot worse than create original music and plug it into the very fibres of the game itself. Even if they're just sea shanties, to stop you from throwing yourself overboard.
Billy Riley, oh Billy Riley, oh Billy Riley, oh
The song is called Wolven Storm, sung by Priscilla and the Kingfisher at the end of a long but brilliant side quest, Broken Flowers. A ballad at its heart, this song is written by Dandelion and describes Geralt's yearnful love for Yennefer of Vengerberg and Yen's love for Geralt of Rivia. It's a windy, weaving fade of a song, filled with the smells of lilac and gooseberries, and, as with Geralt in any situation, no short change of blood. But why was The Witcher 3 able to achieve this same powerful connection between me and the game world through metafictional music inside one of gaming's most intense, intricate open worlds, when all the others we've looked at in their own ways restrict the player, refine and funnel them down the backstage corridors of their making? It's because Wolven Storm awaits you at the end of a long, obvious corridor that the rest of the game up to this point is partly determined to make you forget. From handling contracts to late-night Gwent tournaments, to dealing with bloody barons and bloody close encounters of the third kind, the gameplay of The Witcher 3, the life of Geralt, White Wolf, Monster Slayer, is constantly impressing the player into facing decisions, where you're trying to figure out what kind of Geralt you are. How you tackle quests, haggle for coin, is entirely up to you. You spend so long with the roaring female vocals and sounds of steel and wind-stricken hillocks, staving back the kleptomaniac in you who loots every single item with that satisfying sound. Then in the first 30 hours of this game, it's hard to have time for anything but a complete and utter addition to the life of a Witcher on the trail. And as a side note, this isn't the only song to feature the powers of metafictional persuasion in The Witcher 3. Lullaby of Woe is another. Its elusive female narrator sings a lullaby of the fearing side of the White Wolf's silver blade. About Geralt's, let's say, more mischievous moonlighting activities that happen outside a brothel. It's yet another example where the game pokes at the player's construed idea of whether being a Witcher can ever truly have a good, moral ending, to deceive or twist the mirror back in the player's direction, onto the face of the Butcher of Blaviken. All this is to say that metafictional music in general, or metafiction as a genre, has the same effect as creating an unreliable narrator. An unreliable narrator, in case you didn't know, is a storytelling technique aimed to draw doubt into a reader or viewer's minds as to whether the person regaling us with such a tall tale is in fact speaking entirely from a place of truth, not to be confused with telling white lies, or say, someone like Dandelion, who will use his lyrics to big up a best friend like Geralt, so that people know of his good deeds as much as they've heard about the bad. Remedy Entertainment have got posters snapped up everywhere, welcoming you into their worlds. They are our #1 culprits. If you've played a Remedy game, then I don't need to tell you how they roll. You'll be scouring for every word and chasing every foreshadow of Alan's twisted nightmare, meanwhile courting an indoctrinating melody with every magazine reload, and popping batteries like a Pez dispensing, light-dependent junkie. Trying to find closure in a Remedy title is like fishing for every trout and weed in a lake of mysteries, while an AWE event keeps stealing your lunch and spinning teeth back as insults. And yet, I love it. Remedy reminds us that games have come a long way, from being constricted to just one medium, and music is just another avenue to frighten or entertain. And I don't think Sam Lake is going to stop until he figures how deep this ocean really goes.
Great murder case, Casey. Great job, Sam. Very exciting and very meta. I'm looking forward to seeing more.
Songs are just as important as the story fueling them, perhaps more so. With The Witcher 3, it was when this song happened that stands out every time, I think. Its placement perfectly construes the ending of the first of 3 acts, that is the main story in Geralt's quest to find Ciri. It also, as it did on me, had a lasting psychological effect. One that fed back into the game's twin romance options of whether, and this is a blunt way to put it, simply romance Yennefer or Triss. But by this point I was so infused with my own sense of who Geralt should be out there, who to take coin from, and who to spare a kindness, that this translated to, as if the opening to the game wasn't enough to sell the player of Geralt's love and affection of the violet-eyed mage, then the whole game is telling you that you really should. That's not to knock Triss or anyone who preferred the company of Triss and her own prowess. But it is to say that in a game that is packed with the minutiae of every point of contact, resulting in grievances or disagreements, the game constantly points the player with a guiding finger toward this very scene. It is trying so hard to make the choice easy for you, for Geralt. And because I played as Geralt, and not so much myself, I ended up choosing Yen, because I wanted Geralt, and by extension myself, to be happy, if witchers can know happiness or even hope of marriage. And in The Witcher 3, all of that begins with a rumour and ends with a song. The game's entire first act hitches on this moment, on Priscilla's end-note performance, on the ambience of a night of finer things, of silence and tears.
And displaced by our ever-growing, hardening into stone, amidst the cold to hold you in a heated embrace, you flee. My dream come the morning, your scent, berries tart, lilac sweet, to dream of raven locks and twisted stormy.
This song alone isn't solely responsible for the immersion of the player in Geralt's skin, but it was a watershed moment that I did. You've slayed monsters, been called one yourself, murdered deserters, dealt with Nilfgaardians, quested and feasted your way through an overweighted inventory, reconnected with old friends, fist-fought thugs, played a round or two of Gwent, slipped off a few cliffs, and traversed countless hillsides with a tree-clipping roach under your ass. But nothing so much as cemented why Geralt was doing what he was doing. Aside from chasing down the child of destiny, a child he and Yen in part raised, as a witcher on the road, in search of his long-lost muse. This game is a turbulent experience for the uninitiated. That was me, 10 years ago, flaying my attacks at griffins and drowners like some cod noob with ammo to spare, tossing bombs like they were grenades. The Witcher contracts, brutal and unabashed in their non-remit of death, remind the player that you better be prepared out there on the path, or else you'll find yourself slapped so hard back to those sunny White Orchard days, you'll wish you never left that first tavern and the war-chasing Oxenfurt scholar with his intrepid Gwent addiction. Stick to hunting griffins, kid. Blood-soaked coin will serve a witcher, at least until the snows settle. Especially if you plan on cranking this baby up to death march, better bathe your sword in shiny oils and neck down a few vials of intoxicants to stave off Geralt's demise, and save yourself from one more loading screen. That's all I have to say about metafictional music, although I'm sure there are other examples of games that tackle this most stimulating of world-building textures. If so, let me know. I just wanted to share this moment again. My adoration for this song alone and scene make it a standout moment in the near 30 hours in which the game opens, and keeps on opening up. This was the moment when at last I felt more comfortable in the skin of Geralt of Rivia. It's a long path that Geralt's on. He better buckle up, slap some master-crafted armour on his back, and choose his fight wisely. Like any story worth its weight, The Witcher 3 knows you're going to need a fair share of slow moments to pull you in from fog-infested bogs, somewhere to clean your boots for the evening that wasn't a wayside road, to toss your hard-earned coin on the table. It's a great example of when you as the player get to put your feet up and say, you know what, I earned this. To lean back and sip from a Kedweni stout and listen to a story. Only to realise it was all about you.